Kendra and I have been talking now and courting for a while now. I just wanted, before I stepped any further into the relationship, I wanted to get your permission to ask her if it'd be all right to marry her. I want to ask you first.
I really feel like the Lord's leading in this direction. Do you want to remind you, you're taking one of my most precious gifts.
Yes, sir. Sir, I understand.
So,
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Monday, January 23rd, 2023. I always think it's funny when people say, hey friends. I also was thinking about how y'all are my besties. So I was going to be like, hey besties. That's a thing that we say a lot in this house because we have a 10-year-old. So everyone's besties. So hey besties, hope you're having a wonderful day. I just finished a video on the sister wives, and now I have to talk with you about the Duggars. So Ginger's book is coming out, and I think there's a lot to talk about, but I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of things to say. And Jill did a story for her sister on her Instagram telling Ginger how brave she was for speaking out and to keep telling her truth. Deanna Duggar posted about fake family, and Derek Dillard provided a little shade on that post. On top of that, methinks the Duggars are scrambling with how they're going to manage the situation and what's going to happen to Ginger and Jeremy with this new book coming out. And on top of that, a new baby happened apparently last spring for Joe and Kendra, and I got this random story from a source that I thought, well, it's an old story, but it still sort of maybe speaks to the way this world views children as a gift, a possession, and potentially a status symbol in their quest to please God. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a mother. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a father. And there's certainly nothing wrong with wanting to have a big family. But in the world of the IBLP, where the status that these families have, which is higher, these are the vocal faces of this institution and this group, the more children they have and the bigger families they have, some of these men have a tendency to look at the children as possessions of status and a sign that God has blessed them, and because God loves them, they continue to be blessed, and that the blessing is a sign of, well, I must be better than other people because of the amount of blessings I've been given. And then the women who end up feeling like their only value and worth is having kids, and so this weird sort of competition happens with having children, and sort of the attention that comes from announcing in a pregnancy. And when someone sees someone getting that attention because that's their duty as a woman is to have the kids, how that makes a woman feel like they need to up the ante and get going because they want that attention too, because it's the only way some of these women in this group feel validated. So Ginger is going to be potentially talking about a lot of this in her book, but as I always continue to get emails, messages, and all kinds of tips from people involved. And listen, I want to just put this out there. My coverage of the Duggars isn't just about the gossip and about all of the ins and like the keeping up with the family. It's the continued discussion about this very harmful group, the Institute in Basic Life Principles, the harmful effects of the fundamentalist belief system around it, and the impacts it has on the wider society because of the show and because of the fame of this family. But it's also to highlight stories that you might not hear from this world because it didn't happen to the Duggars, but there's more than just the Duggars in this world, and there's things that are happening daily to people in this world that would take your breath away in terms of like how horrible it is. So we'll continue to expose and share and highlight stories as we send them. And if you are a survivor, or if you are someone that knows the Duggars and you have a tip, you can always email me at tips@withoutacrystalball.com. All right, so before we dive into today's topic, can you do me a big favor and give this video a thumbs up? Also, subscribe to my channel if you have not yet subscribed, and turn those notifications on so you know when I go live or when new content loads, and make sure to leave a comment if you have something to say, and as always, share this video with your friends. All right, let's get down to business. So Jill Duggar posted an Instagram story where she basically said she talked about seeing the article of Gingers with People magazine sharing her story. And in her Instagram stories, Jill expressed this message to Ginger.
Also about my sister Ginger's new book. I haven't read it yet, but I did see the article and everything. So I just want to say that I am so proud of her, Ginge. I'm so proud of you and Jer. And I know that this journey probably was not easy for you guys, so I'm just proud of your bravery, and just continue speaking truth.
So Ginger and Jill's relationship is, I would say, they've never been super close, but they are obviously siblings. So Jill is 31. She's going to be 32 in not too long, and Ginger just turned 29 years old. So they're like 2 to 3 years apart, but there's Jessa in between, and Jill and Jana were kind of like in an older clump because they grew up, she and John, David and Jana were very close growing up, and then Ginger and Jessa were super close. So a lot of people thought that the message that Jill made was some sort of sign that like she and Jill and Ginger are not very close. Jill does not go visit Ginger. I don't know that she's ever been out to California to see her. Ginger and Jill are not like super close and never really have been. So she probably does speak to her, but I'm sure it's not as like, you know how when you have a big family, you have some siblings that you're closer to and some that you're not? It's probably a situation like that. And they live on the opposite side of the world. You know, like she lives in California, she lives in Arkansas, and they're both raising kids. How often do you have time to go through and sit down with all of your siblings on a daily basis or even a yearly basis, and then multiply that times 18, and that's the Duggars. So, but Jill has known what it means to speak out. She knows how awful this will be. She knows that she'll get backlash. She knows that she'll lose support from the base of followers that became the core group of people that loved the Duggars, the people that really loved the belief system and the system that they represented to the public. And that means that the group, there's going to be backlash, there's going to be negative comments, she could get threats. I've seen threats that have been sent to Duggar family members. I have seen threats that have included, you know, awful things that supporters of the Duggars have sent to people, and potentially friends, because they know their phone numbers of things that are sent to them, which are just things that you wouldn't expect in this world. But speaking out against a parent is considered like the worst thing ever. So anyways, Jill knows how hard it is to be on the receiving end of that. And so having her speak out, even if they're not super close, I think it's a good sign to say like, hey, if you get backlash, I have your back. And that's good. She needs that kind of support. With that being said, Deanna Duggar also has posted that she is really proud of her niece Ginger for speaking out. So Deanna is Jim's oldest sister. He only has one sister, obviously, and she's like 3 years older than Jim. And they did not grow up in the IBLP. They did go to the conferences. Like I think Deanna told me once that her mom sent them to the youth conferences that Gothard put on, and that she went to a couple as a teenager, but she never really got into it, but that Jim really got into it. And in the years that I've been able to converse with Deanna on and off, I think the one thing I always get from her is that, you know, she's a very Christian woman. She has a lot of similar like Christian beliefs in that she's a Baptist, and, you know, she's conservative, but she's not IBLP, and she's never been IBLP. And she's been scared that her brother and his kids are lost inside of a cult that she can't get them out of. And that cult has been used against her and her daughter, and now Jill. And I think she knows all too well as well what happens when someone speaks out. Deanna, she actually posted on her Instagram, "The most dangerous animal on the planet is a fake friend." And she said, "So true," and fake family. And I noticed that Derek liked the post. And then she said, "I saw this post on Facebook and I had to repost. I know so many are hurting. I have a ministry to pray for others. If you need me to pray for you, leave me a comment." And what I would recommend with fake family and friends is forgive them and move on. Life is what you make it. Almighty God will deal with them. So she also made a story where she said, like, "I'm so proud of my niece, Jinger." I think one of the hardest parts for the Duggars would have to be that, like, it's always something new that's coming. You know what I mean? Like, you try to move on, but then something else drops. So you're like in this perpetual state of trauma, because it's like, I want to move on from my family. I want to move on from this ugliness, but I was involved in it indirectly because I'm related to them. And you want to be mindful that there's victims in the situation, so you don't want to just ignore it, right? So a lot of people will say, well, to Deanna, like, "Well, why can't you move on?" And I think it's like they can't move on because it's constantly in the news. Ginger's book is going to probably dig up some old wounds, let's just say. And the fact that Derek liked it, I think, should tell you sort of where they stand with the family. Jill has been seen with some of her sisters and has been at events for Joanna and for her sister Jana. And so people assume that because she is reuniting with the girls and the women in the family, that she is on better terms with her dad. I don't think that's the case. I don't believe they're still welcome at the Duggars house. And Derek is very clear where he stands and what he thinks and feels about the family. And they have their massive guards up. And so does Jill. Jill guards herself a lot. And the relationship between her and Jim Bob, I don't know that will ever be restored, but you can have relationships from a distance or get together with your sisters in a neutral setting to see them, but still not be back in the fold, if that makes sense. Jill supports it. Deanna and Derek says fake friends, fake family. And then finally, I wanted to talk to you about this kind of weird situation that I found myself in this weekend. So a lot of people are wondering, like, what's going to happen? Is Jim Bob going to panic? What's going to happen to the younger girls? Is he going to get more strict because the older girls married guys that pulled them out of the cult? Is he going to be more stringent about what happens to the suitors that come for them? And every so often I get messages from people that are inside this group, and I find out kind of like what friends of Jim Bob's, how they handle their daughters. And let's just say the way that they manage courting is pretty severe and very hands-on. And, the women really don't have a choice. And I wonder very much if Ginger is going to speak to the fact of the arrangement side of things, because her marriage was effectively arranged. And if she's denouncing courtship, does she then have questions about her own marriage? Will she have questions about her own marriage? I don't know. But with some of the Duggars being more public, like Ginger, and having all of these arranged marriages, and women that are still in the fold feeling like their only worth is to have babies, there's been speculation about more babies being born, which we really don't talk about a lot on this channel. But Joe and Kendra did appear to have another child back in the spring. The Sun reported about it. We couldn't verify it because they've never said anything publicly, but she was seen in a video holding a baby boy, looks like in October at the Fall Festival or November. He was seen out. Joe was seen out with his dad, Jim Bob, this spring in June, early summer, eating out with his kids and a little boy. And so Kendra has basically had 4 kids in 5 years. So she's got 2 boys and 2 girls now. And I was talking to a source that I just was like, okay, I was trying to work through a story that I'm still researching and I'll be bringing to you at a later date. And I was asking them about that situation. And then the topic got brought up about Kendra and Joe. And we were talking about, how they had this baby, and we were talking about how the men in this culture are very weird about the courtship side of it, how controlling they are with their daughters, and how odd they are about the babies. Like they become obsessed with babies. The source said something that I thought was kind of weird. So remember how when Kendra was pregnant with her first child and her mom, Christina, became pregnant very shortly after that? And then remember how when she got pregnant with her third, Addison, and then her mom, Christina, also got pregnant shortly thereafter? So apparently this is what my source said, and I'm going to go off of what the source said because obviously this is alleged, but this source is someone that's they've been such a reliable source throughout this entire process and very in deep and enmeshed and knows and all of these people. And they recalled a conversation that they'd had with Kendra not long after she had gotten home from her honeymoon. And Kendra had made comment to the source about how when they got home from the honeymoon, one of the first questions that Kendra's mom had for her was, do you think you're pregnant? Or are you pregnant? Not because Kendra was expressing like she was having symptoms, not because Kendra looked pregnant. It was just like this weird question because they literally had just gotten home. They went to Greece and they had been gone for a couple weeks. And the first question is, do you think you're pregnant? And Kendra thought the question was like very weird. And the source, that's what the source alleged, and it didn't like sit well with her. And then not long after, Kendra is pregnant, announces the pregnancy, and then her mother ends up getting pregnant. I was like, well, do you think that Christina saw that Kendra was getting attention or that she just wanted to be pregnant with her daughter? And she said, yeah, I feel like Christina, every time Kendra got pregnant for those 2 times, was actively trying to get pregnant to share the spotlight with Kendra. And so I was like, that's kind of bizarre. And so I asked this other lady who's a fundamentalist about that. And what she said was that it can be really hard when a mother sees their child having a baby and they can still have a baby, because they almost in a way see the attention that the woman is getting. And it's not that they're not happy for them, but that's like the only value they have for themselves is, my value in this cult is to breed and make babies. And so when you see another woman making a baby or having a baby, you almost want to like share in that, or you feel like you want a piece of that. And it's not like necessarily attention seeking, but it's attention seeking in a way. So this obsession with, well, she's pregnant, now I need to get pregnant. So it's almost like the way that the source described it was Christina would see Kendra getting pregnant and then want to get pregnant too. And apparently this happens in this group a lot. So moms get unusually obsessed with their oldest daughters having a baby and then becoming pregnant with their daughters because they want to experience the attention that their daughters get. And they also want to have like a blessing with their daughter. And it's like they're almost at the end of their breeding years at that point. And so it's like, it's sad. It makes me sad to think that like Christina had 7 kids and that she needed to feel like, well, Kendra is, because in a way it steals the spotlight and the happiness that Kendra would have normally had on herself because she's having a baby. And her mom sort of takes a part of that by saying, well, now I'm pregnant too. So you don't get that normal glow of the mom, and Christina doesn't get the normal experience as a grandma because she's about to become a mom again too. It's just it's a weird, unhealthy dynamic. And the men, to them, it's just like, oh, great, another number. Because some of these guys, the higher up they get in the group, the number of kids they have can really, in their minds, make them feel like they're superior to other people because it's a outward example of how much God loves them. It's weird. And the women do truly believe that children are a blessing. So I don't want to take away the fact that women don't believe that children are a blessing, but I just thought it was an interesting story about how people long suspected that Christina was trying to do that. And that's basically what the source said, that Christina was doing that. She was trying to get pregnant with Kendra. So there you go. So they've had a fourth child, and Christina did not have another one. That's what I have for now. Shade, Jill supports Ginger, and Christina and Kendra's weird enmeshment of babies. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.